Hi, I'm Steve Zakuani. I'm a recently retired professional soccer player. And for me, happiness is, I tie it to peace of mind. Being able to have peace of mind in spite of what's going on. So if you can be at peace in turmoil and any situation, good times, bad times, I think you're a pretty happy person. So happiness to me is anyone who is able to stay level-headed and calm and peaceful in spite of what's going on. Growing up, I used to think that to be happy, I had to feel good. And if I wasn't feeling good or emotionally I wasn't great, then I wasn't happy. But I think to be a happy person is more of a state of mind. And so I've had to learn that because towards the end of my career, there were most days I didn't feel good. But I didn't want to be someone who wasn't happy. And so I learned that I was content in what was going on and accepting my situation and just trusting that things would work out how they should. I was pretty happy. There's times when I definitely wasn't happy, but I mean, as an overall for me, I had to learn that outside circumstances shouldn't really dictate how I feel about myself, and happiness comes from the inside. So it did change, yeah. I learned two things. I learned one, to separate myself from what was going on, that I didn't have to go with everything. There's a great quote I read years ago that says, when things go wrong, don't go with them. And so I learned to just kind of understand that life happens to everyone. There's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. And if I'm too swayed by the current season of life I'm in, I'm not going to enjoy life too much. I'll be too up and down. So I wanted to learn how to be a steady, stable, mature person, because I realized that what I'd been through, there could be more down the line. And I have to learn now how to kind of navigate my way through this. Accept what happened, be angry, be sad, but let my state of mind always be one of peace and contentment, and understand that no matter what's going on, I can always choose to respond in a happy way. So that was where it came from. Growing up, I just had a vision. Like I was, where I grew up wasn't the nicest neighborhood. It was a really, really low income, drug filled, crime filled, anything you don't want in a society. That's what we had in London growing up. I grew up in a North London city called Tottenham, and just a lot of bad things were going on. But from a young age, I gravitated towards football or soccer. I really gravitated towards it, and I just had a picture of myself playing. And so I think, in spite of things that were going on around me, I just always knew where I wanted to end up. And I realized that's fortunate. Most people don't know what they want to be when they're older until much later in life. I knew at 8, 9, 10 years old, I was pretty clear what I wanted to do with my life. And to be able to have done it, I can only say it's because I had that clear vision, and it really helped me to block out a lot of distractions. Not all of them, but most of them, because I kind of knew where I wanted to go. So I think it was my vision of one day playing professional soccer that kind of helped me. I always say now that a lot of professional athletes especially, and I'm sure it's true in other jobs, but I can only speak for pro athletes, is they hate the thought of retirement. That playing a pro sport is such a rare thing to happen. It's unique. You want to do it for as long as you can. It's a great, lifestyle. But when I got injured initially, when I broke my leg in 2011, I had to confront the reality that I might never play again. And so I didn't retire until 3, 4 years later. So I had a long time to kind of plan what I would do in case I have to. And so when I decided to retire, it didn't hold any fear for me in terms of the future. I'd already kind of figured out what lane I would go in. I was writing the book at that time. I knew that would come out. I enjoyed the writing process so much that I was like, okay, I've got to get a second book out. And so I'm working on that. During my career with the Sounders especially, I used to do a lot of speaking, because my story, people kind of like to hear, coming from Africa, going to London, Akron, Ohio, Seattle, how did that happen? It's inspirational. And so I did a lot of speaking, and now I'm going into that more full time as well. So I have a whole entire speaking gigs lined up, and I love that too. And then obviously my connection with the Sounders to do broadcasting is kind of a way for me to stay in touch with the game, the MLS game. And so I'll be doing that as well. And so it's nice to kind of reinvent myself. I know how hard it was to become a pro soccer player. And to become good in any industry, it takes a lot of work and graft. And I'm embracing the challenge of having to do that again. Can I write good books that connect with people? When I get up to tell my story, whether it's to a business crowd or to a university or whoever I'm talking to, can I inspire someone in that crowd? Can I be good at that? So as a broadcaster, can I learn the game from a new angle? I know how to play it, but so I'm embracing the challenge of having to reinvent myself and be good at new things. One of the events of my life that people have connected with was after my injury, when I made a comeback in my game. It was against the team and the player that I'd been injured against. And so it was on NBC and national television and all this coverage, and a big deal was made out of it. And I only played 5 minutes in the game because it was my first game after so long. And so I kind of went out there just to kind of get out of the way. So my coach put me in the game to kind of, let's get the media and everyone talking, then it will die down, then you can really get to work to really get back to where you should be. And at the end of that game, in soccer, after games, you normally trade jerseys with the opposing a team member, but normally it's with your friends or guys you really looked up to growing up, like you kind of pick who you choose. You pick and choose who you trade jerseys with. But for this game, I traded jerseys with the guy who had injured me. Because for months I'd be saying that I held no grudges, that I'd forgiven him. And it wasn't from a place of, I'm such a good person, I forgive him. It was from a place of, I can't give energy to that. If I ever want to play again, all my energy has to go into my rehab, has to go into my physical therapy. I can't hold grudges. So it came from that. And so I traded jerseys after the game with him to kind of show the world that we're good, like there's no issues, and this is closure for me and for him. And the next day I had messages from people all walks of life. There was a preacher who messaged me saying he used that story in his sermon as showing people how to forgive and move on. There was a teacher who told me that she used it for a third grade class to teach them the values of forgiving and moving on. And so I got it from doctors and everyone. I think that was something I did, it was indirect. And so that was one of the cool examples of sports and my life kind of translating to every area of life. The reason I even went through with the book was because I started to see that the story went beyond soccer. It was like when I got injured, every message was from soccer fans, like from all over the world. I got letters from everywhere and everyone, and it was from soccer people. When I came back, the letters were from soccer fans, but it was from people from business, doctors, a lot of preachers and pastors, and from all walks of life. And I realized that redemption or recovery or overcoming adversity is a human experience, is a human story, and people gravitate towards that. And we really had suffering really unites people, and people saw my story, they could relate to their lives, and they joined in with me. And so the book actually came out of that to reach more people. And when I'm saying I want to write a second book and a third book, I'm not thinking about the soccer market. I'm not thinking about the life market, because there's a message in there somewhere that needs to be heard by a lot of people. And so I'm not really that surprised anymore, because I think we all are on a journey, a human journey. It's a beautiful journey, and we can learn from each other. And I'm not surprised that the lessons in my life that I speak about a lot can apply to someone who's 50 and has been living for a long time and has seen it all, or someone who's 16 and is going through a hard time. And so I think it's a great thing about life that we're all so different, but we can relate to some common things. During my career, and I'm sure a lot of athletes can relate to this, you go around and you give like little talks in schools and you do signings and stuff like that, and the kids will either say things like, oh, I want to be like you when I grow up, or they'll say things like, what were you doing when you were my age? What did you do to get there, for example? And those questions kind of drove me to a place of understanding that there's some people in life who become so elite, so good at what they do, we start glamorizing them in the media without realizing the price they paid to get there. I told a story when I even speak that when I got to Seattle after just being drafted, I'm driving downtown Seattle with my friend, and he's driving and we're driving, and a bus goes by us and he does a double take because my face is on the side of the bus. And then he says, oh, that's so cool, I wish I was on the side of a bus. And it's like, it got me thinking, like, you have no idea the journey I've been on to get my face on the side of the bus. There's all these things you have to go through. And so a book I'm working on, I'm tentatively playing around with the idea of calling it The Other Side of Success. And I'm actually taking your role. I'm traveling around interviewing people. So I've done a few interviews. I've got a few more lined up with people who are successful across all fields of life to ask them, what is it like when the cameras are off? When the part no one sees, because for you to be camera ready and ready to perform, I know a lot of work goes into it. So it's a musician, doctors, for example, who's some really successful surgeons that I know, because I had to know them through my injuries. And they told me how many years of medical school they did, how much they're still researching and stuff. And that's really cool to understand that to be successful there, the work kind of never stops. So I want to kind of bring the light to that side of it. Growing up for me, success was, and I still kind of hold to this, is when you get to a point in life when you're between waking up and going to bed, you're doing what you wanted to do. You're doing what gave you life and makes you happy and brings you to life. And as long as you're helping other people. For me, that was always kind of the theme of success, where it's a miserable existence, I think, to wake up and have to do something you don't want to do. For a while you can do that, but to do that forever, just not worth it. Like, life is short, man. Go after what you want, do what you want to do. And for me, that's someone who's successful. And so I still hold to that, but now I kind of understand there's a real process to it. That not everyone can get to the point of when I wake up and go to bed, in between, I did what I wanted to do. It doesn't just happen. To get that, you are going to spend a lot of years and a lot of time doing things you probably hate to do and have to do. I hated going to the gym. I hated going for long runs. I hated that stuff. But I had to do that to get to the point where I was waking up in Mexico by the side of a beach to play a game. Like, that's not work. Like, that's my life. I love it. And then we travel to Trinidad, and then we play games in LA, and we travel all over the country playing football that I did my whole life. So that was amazing. And now, on the other side of retirement, it's even more, because I'm not even having to go into practice. Like, I thought I'd miss it, but I don't, because I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. As long as when I wake up and go to bed, in between, I'm doing the things I wanted to do. For me, that's someone who's successful. And it's the things that you're passionate about, that you gravitate towards. And it takes a while to get there, but once you're there, I think that's success. Kingdom Hope kind of began in my mind at 17. It was just from the influences of different mentors and stuff that came into my life on the soccer side and life side, who taught me how to just think a little bit differently. It taught me to think outside of my environment, because the environment, as I mentioned, that I grew up in wasn't a good one. And suddenly there was a teacher and there was a speaker who came and began to teach me how to set goals, how to have a vision, things that I never learned in school, and how to be a man even. And so I credit that, as well as my work on the soccer side, for who I am today, in terms of becoming an accomplished athlete, but then also being someone who's very active in the community and doing it because I want to do it. And so I wanted to then reach as many people with that message in the way I was reached. And so Kingdom Hope was born. In 2010, I officially founded it in Seattle. And first it was just doing soccer clinics and kind of, let's get our feet wet, see what we can do. I used to do a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club. I think I did a couple of things with Seattle Children's, a couple other non-profits. But now it's kind of morphing into what it should be and where it should be going, which is, we've just launched a scholarship which takes an African student anywhere in Africa and places them in university in Rwanda, which we have a partnership with an organization that has connections in Rwanda. And so as I'm sitting here right now, through the work of me and my team, we've put a kid who never would have gone to school. He's in school studying right now. Like that's it for me. That's awesome. That's brilliant for me. And so we're going to do a lot more of the scholarships. I hold a leadership event every year in Seattle for the past 3 and 4 years called Rising Leaders, where people come and for one night I give an inspiring talk. And we do that every November in Seattle. And so we have that coming up this year as well. And then my ultimate goal is to go back to London and build like a leadership center where it has a soccer academy, take classes on leadership and self-discovery, things that you don't really learn in school, but for me that are key to life. So we're just growing, and I'm working every day towards those dreams. You know, growing up in England, there was we listened to a lot of American hip-hop and rap, but then we had our own thing that is not known over here. It's called grime music. And grime music, what it is it's only 15, 16 years old as a genre, and it came out of where I was living, like our neighborhood. Kids would just get together in the park like this and just start rapping in circles, but really fast. And then eventually people started making beats to it, and then producers came, and then first it was really underground, and now it's mainstream. And so if I really want to connect and to a happy place, I listened to some of the music that was on, we call it pirate radio station, like illegal radio in 2002, when I used to have my Walkman tape cassette, record it, and then listen to it on the way to school. And some of that music is resurfacing on the internet, on YouTube now, and it sounds really bad quality. You can hear the fuzziness, but that for me is great music. And then away from that, I listen to anything from without being biased, a lot of English artists. Like, I got into Coldplay towards the end of my career. I remember Adele, love Adele. There's a couple of English rappers I like. The most famous one is a guy called Dizzy Rascal, so I listen to him a lot. So it's really geared towards English music, and then I can't hide away from like a Bob Marley or Michael Jackson. Classics like that for me, I can play any day of the week. There was a time when I was taking music even more seriously than soccer. Like, I was actually doing grime music, like I'm just with my friends, actually going on radio, to the point that I used to go on the radio. And I left it for a while. I got to Seattle, and there was a producer in Seattle who was big on grime music. It's a guy from Seattle, and I couldn't believe it. And we became really good friends. And they had a studio right by the stadium, right by CenturyLink, that I would go to every now and then just to hang out, see different artists come through. And then I started going in the booth and just doing things for fun. So we just made a whole bunch of tracks, but it was just for me, and give out to my friends, listen to. And so that was kind of my last thing I did. I haven't like sat down and tried. I never took it seriously. I still don't. But I think it's always going to be a part of me. Sometimes it's the best way for me to express myself, to try and if I listen to Drake, for example, and I hear Drake kill a beat, I want to say, oh, I wonder what I could do on that beat. I'm not Drake, but for the fun of it, I might. And then writing has always been a good process, whether it's writing a book, writing lyrics, it's always been the way I outlet myself. So yeah, I did a lot of it. I haven't done it lately, but I would never rule out doing it for fun again. I would say the biggest thing I've learned about myself is something I've learned about everyone. It's not just unique to me. Is that you're always way stronger than you think. And I had to really dig deep to learn that. I'll give you two things. The one about you're always stronger than you think is, if before my injury, at that time, I was young, 22, 23-year-old kid, flying, playing this great soccer. Someone had told me, you're about to be injured, not play for 500 days, have 5 surgeries, then you're going to come back and everyone's going to applaud you. Then you're going to have 2 more injuries, groin injuries. You're going to miss 13 more months, and then you're going to have to retire at 26. I don't know if I would have said I can actually go through with that. I don't think I would have thought I was strong enough. But I'm on the other side of it now, and I'm genuinely happy. I understand it in its context how it happened, and I'm trusting that things will work out how they should. So I think that's true for anyone. I always tell people now, like, when you're going through it, don't just hold on a little bit longer, because there's definitely life on the other side of your storm. I think so. I definitely learned that. And the second thing I learned about myself, which took me a while, was that it's okay to feel like you want to give up and feel like you want to, you know, just not go on anymore. Because I would always say, people say, you know, think positive, think positive. And I used to just think that means I can't feel bad. And if I'm feeling kind of bad about my injuries and I had a really bad day at rehab and I had some setbacks, but I can't feel bad, that's not realistic. Like, I'm human. Like, when you feel those feelings, like, go all the way, like, embrace them, be in them, be one with them, and then wake up the next day and hey, we go again. I think that's very important. People need to stop being so hard on themselves. Like, don't take life too serious, and understand that there's going to be lots of ups and downs. And I think out of that, I found out about myself that that's what it takes for me to be happy. I really have to learn to connect with whatever emotion I'm in, and then have it for 1 hour, 2 hours, go through it, and then when I come back out, I grow and become stronger, and I'll never go back to that place. So I think those are the two things, that I was way stronger than I thought I would ever be, and secondly, that I just connect a lot to my emotions for the benefit of understanding that it's okay to sometimes be weak. Being positive doesn't mean you never have doubts. It doesn't. So I learned that.